now I can't sleep at night because I have no formidable or predictable way to put more leads in front of the sales team you just built. And we were like, oh, we didn't even know this was a problem. And so we started showing these agency clients, here's how we did it before the internet existed. You can just use a spreadsheet and a piece of paper, and social media makes it way easier. And all of them started hitting these massive home runs. And so Chris and I said, well, wait a minute. Like, that seems to be a bigger fix for all these businesses online. Why don't we do a mastermind?
This week on Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge, join us as Sean Malone of Flowchat.com unveils the secrets of mastering sales and the digital transformation that led to their groundbreaking software, Flowchat. Tune in and transform your approach to tech and sales. This is going to be a great conversation.
Hey, Mike, so grateful to be here. I'm so excited. I love what you do. I'm just pumped for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, let's just dive right in. So, what inspired you to pivot into the tech industry with Flowchat after having established multiple successful companies in other sectors?
What a great question. It comes down to the market need. We had at the time, this is Flowchat's actually our second software product that we've developed. The first one is called Digital Genius Lab, and we ended up exiting from that one. And so this one, after we exited our first one, we asked our coach, who's Russell Brunson, what should we do? And he said, what are you good at? And we said, well, we're really good at sales. And so he said, all these people that are in the online space that are selling stuff, specifically like for SaaS companies and tech guys, they're really good at tech, but they aren't so good on the sales side, and they might need some support there. So me and my business partner, Chris, at the time, well, Chris has been my business partner for 8 years. We started interviewing all of these SaaS founders and tech players and said, hey, do you struggle with sales? And they all said yes. And so after about 40 or 50 marketing research calls, 5 of them said, look, we're not getting off the phone until we put a deal together. And that was like the birth of our high ticket agency. For that agency, what we did is we showed them how to hire, on board, and train a sales team. Very simple. And we showed their sales team how to sell, and we managed them for a period of 6 months. And what we saw during that period was really interesting. We went through the entrepreneur's warm market, and we taught their sales team to close all the deals out of their warm market. And then these entrepreneurs, these SaaS, founders and tech guys come back to us and they're like, Sean and Chris, thank you so much for the sales team. Now I don't have to sell, and that weight's off my shoulders. But now I can't sleep at night because I have no formidable or predictable way to put more leads in front of the sales team you just built. And we were like, oh, we didn't even know this was a problem. And so we started showing these agency clients, here's how we did it before the internet existed. You can just use a spreadsheet and a piece of paper, and social media makes it way easier. And all of them started hitting these massive home runs. And so Chris and I said, well, wait a minute. Like, that seems to be a bigger fix for all these businesses online. Why don't we do a mastermind? So we took that concept and we launched this 25K mastermind where we showed people in the first 3 months, here's how you put this system in your tech business and get the opportunities flowing, right? And then there's 9 months behind it of advanced sales coaching so that you could get good at sales, or you could hire a sales team, whatever. And 83% of those businesses, and dozens going through this thing, all hit home runs. 83% of them. We're like, well, that's a huge number. And then about 2 years into that mastermind, one of our clients says, you know what, guys, you're doing it off a piece of paper and a spreadsheet, and it's way archaic and it sucks, and you need a software. And we're like, oh, shoot. And so that pushed us down the path of let's develop a software around this whole concept. So it came from a market need. We don't know tech, right? Chris and I are really good at sales, but our messaging actually ran into our CTO's messaging. We got on the phone with him. We're like, what do you do? And he's like, I built this amazing software over here. And what do you guys? He goes, but I have no clients. He's like, what do you do? I was like, well, we have hundreds of clients, but we don't know the tech. And so that ended up making the birth of what is now Flowchat, originally built in 2017, relaunched in 2020. And the last 4 years, we've just laid down infrastructure and brought hundreds of clients into the tech. And this is the year of AI and automation for us. So that's kind of where Flowchat came from.
Awesome story. So, well, as I was getting to know you, doing my research, I see mentioned over and over again the lost art of prospecting and high ticket sales. So, could you explain to me what specific skills or techniques you think are critical in this art?
Yeah. So the lost art of prospecting, I call it the lost art of prospecting because I think every business has to prospect. If your business is not prospecting, you're probably dying. And the problem with most, tech founders and executives is they have so much going on. There's so many hats they're wearing. They push prospecting away because it's such a low skill. It's a low skill to prospect. It's not hard to do, but it's extremely highly valuable. So like whenever I see something in a business that's high value and low skill, most people think, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'll do it later. It's too easy to do. I need to focus on more important things. That's why it's the lost art of prospecting, because it needs to be in a business. But if people are too busy to do it, then your business doesn't grow. And so that was where that kind of came from. High ticket sales has been my vocation. In fact, when I came out of college, the thing that I wanted to do, Mike, really simple. I just had one question on my mind. Is like, how do I make a boatload of money? That's what I wanted to do. And so I asked my dad, like, what should I do? And he said, well, are you a CEO? And I go, I'm 21. I don't even know what those letters mean. No. He's like, are you an entertainer? Can't sing or dance. No. And then he goes, well, you better learn sales. And so I started a sales job and I was so bad at it. Here's what I mean. If you're listening to me and you're a tech executive and you suck at sales, I sucked worse than you did. So don't feel bad. For my first 6 weeks, I made 2,400 cold calls. Yes, I picked up the phone and I had a list of phone numbers. In 2,400 attempts, I booked 0 appointments. Bad, terrible, awful. And I was about to just quit the whole thing of sales because I was like, this sucks. I don't want to do it. And I went to my dad and I was like, I'm done. This is dumb. I don't know what. I'm just going to go get another job somewhere. And he's like, no, 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 no. Go to the library and get a book. Great advice, Dad. Thank you. So I go into the sales, the library, and I go to the sales section. I'm walking through and I saw this book just popped out and he was like, How to Master the Art of Selling Stuff. I was like, that's what I'm trying to do. Like, I'm going to get that book, Tom Hopkins. In fact, I still have the book right here. This is the original one that I bought. Look at the old picture of Tom Hopkins on the front, right? And I read through that book and I got to like chapter 7 and it was like, here's how you set an appointment. I was like, a formula. Whoa, like I could follow a formula. And so I get in I come in Monday, I'm all pumped because I have this little system and I tried to set my first one, messed it up, totally butchered. But I'd had so much practice and I had my heart in because I had my shell on because I have 2,400 calls and not an appointment. I didn't care. So I pick up my second call and I start dialing and I get to the place where I'm supposed to deliver this little line and I messed it up, totally messed it up. And the hair's standing on my neck and my sweat beads are coming down. And I'm like, I'm just trying to set an appointment. And the guy on the other end was like, Sean, I know what you're trying to do. It's okay. Come on over at Tuesday morning on 9 a.m. And I was like, gosh, I was so excited. I was jumping around my office. I set my first appointment. And I never have forgotten to this day, which was like almost 3 decades ago, the rush of in my nervous system, right through the core of my body, like the blood. It's like a sweet poison. You can't get it out. And I got completely hooked on how do I become the best at this? I want to master communication through the vocation of high ticket sales and the lost art of prospecting because I've struggled with so much. And then fast forward, I got really good at it. Now you ask, what are the things someone needs to do to be good at this? There's really
Right.
3, there's not one. So the first thing is you have to be convicted. You have to have 100% conviction around the thing that you do. So as a tech executive, are you convicted like you would go and preach from the mountaintops about your product, service, or whatever you're building? And if no, we got to figure out why not. And so a lot of people say, well, Sean, how do I get the conviction? If you're not convicted, take out a piece of paper and write down all the negative what ifs or it's not good or whatever, all those things that the head trash is what I call it. Write it down on a piece of paper. First attempt, try to sell yourself on why that was a dumb thing that you wrote down. Second attempt, if that doesn't work, take it to a business partner, a coach, or somebody else, a mentor. Take it to Mike. Mike can help you and walk through each of those things and figure out why those are even in your mind as head trash. And when you get rid of that, you now have 100% conviction. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you must have consistency, right? You got to have reps at the plate, right? You could be the best sales technique guy in the world, but if you don't have at bats, you don't have baseballs coming your way, you're never going to hit. You're just going to strike out every single time. So you have to have consistency in the efforts and the things that you're doing, right? So it takes reps. And then the last one is persistency. No people are going to say no. No people are going to throw trash at you all the time. And it's like, if you get knocked down on your back, like Les Brown says, if you can see up, you better get up. right? And that's the whole thing about having persistency. So if you have conviction about what you sell, you consistently take the at bats and you persistently go after it, no matter how hard you get knocked down, you will create success.
Yeah, no, I actually agree with that. I kind of experienced that myself when I first started my coaching business, and I start reaching out to people who would make comments that clearly indicated there were things I could help them with, and I just mangle it. And I think I did a thousand a thousand outreach messages with zero calls booked. And
How to
then
make you
I'm
feel? How to make you feel? Because it feels like
um
garbage,
it
right?
felt horrible, but at the same time, I knew that, there's a problem here. How do you fix it? So I worked with somebody on like mostly my messaging abilities, because I think that's where I was lacking, was just not saying the right things. Like you mentioned, you get to a certain point, and there's a sentence you're supposed to say, and you like mangle it, and then the other person on the other side sort of chuckles at you for it. But I've turned that around and just learned how to write better content, and it carries over into the conversations that you make. And truly, just doing it, like you said, it does remind me of like my times playing baseball. You go to practice, and you take batting practice, and you just take one swing after another swing after another swing to just try to fix problems. So that's really great advice, actually. So I'm curious though, like we talked about, what brought you to the creation of Flowchat. But how does Flowchat's approach to chat management differ from other tools currently available on the market?
Sure, great question. When we started to develop the build out of what we really wanted, one of the things that we found was troubling to us was I look at the world of social media as one giant bucket of leads. So it's not like there's this platform and that platform and that platform. And when we were developing it, the first thing we thought to ourselves is like, dang it, if I want to go play on X, I need to buy this software specific to X. And then I want to play on Facebook, I need another one, and then another one, and another one. And so what we found was most companies, when they do it that way and they have 10 different softwares for 10 different platforms or whatever, they have to have a unique and specialized individual to run each one of those things. And we said, well, F that. Like, we don't want that piece. Instead, we want a universal tool that will import or extract opportunities from this big bucket of leads we call social media from anywhere at any time. So the first principle of Flowchat is importing from all the platforms in one place, one easy way. It works the same every single time. And so I think, the only tech right now that works across 13 major socials. Everywhere else, you have to buy a different software for a different platform. And so that was really kind of the first principle. The second principle for Flowchat that really separated us from everything else was this idea of pipeline view. So if you've seen Trello before, I'm sure you've seen Trello, or a spreadsheet where you have columns, right? What we did is we took the Trello concept and we built it specifically for direct messages on personal profiles, because there hadn't been one before we built the first one. And as soon as we launched it, every competitor copied it. And that gave me validation, like, hey, this is the right thing, because everyone's now copying it. And that was fine. They won't ever catch up to us because we're so far ahead in our tech. And then the third principle was this idea of reporting. Anybody that plays organic, right? Now, we're the organic outreach and inbound folks. Like, if you go outbound or inbound and you play in the personal space and messengers, any of the messengers or chat areas, like, Flowchat is that place. And so anytime anyone ever does that, one of the things that they always struggle with, because we struggled with ourselves and so did our clients, was tracking, reporting, attribution, right? How do you set that up in a way so that it's so simple? And so we built out this very unique reporting dashboard where you can click one button, see the dashboard, and you can say, that's where my messaging sequence is broken, or this thing sucks over here, or my importing on this side is not right. And you can instantly identify where it's broken and then dive in with your team, or you just go and dive in and fix it. And so those three combination of things, and then there's so much more after that, but like those three are the things that everybody is just very, very appealing towards all of them. Yeah. So
That's ingenious. I mean, the fact that it goes across multiple platforms is a game changer, because I mean, like for myself, there's a tool that I use mostly just to make connections on LinkedIn. It just saves a lot of time to like set it and let it go and do its thing.
yep.
And I kind of find the connection process on LinkedIn kind of impersonal.
Low
It's
skill, high value. Low skill,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying, right? It's the same thing, right? So
and
it's
I
low
find it super
skill.
impersonal and like easy to do. So it's like I just use an automated tool to do connections, and then I take over from there. But
Can I can
I've
I
often said,
can I jump in
but
right there and just share
yeah,
one thing? Because I think it's really
yeah,
valuable for everybody, right? So like one of the pieces that we have that part of the tool in our system. And so it's like click it and let it go and run. But here's the problem, right? You're hitting it and you choose a list, whether you go to like a LinkedIn group or you pull a nav search or you do whatever and you let it go and it runs. Well, it's going to go through and it's going to connect to every person, regardless of whether or not that person's active on the platform. So our tech, we said, let's make it smart. Let's go in and say, how many posts does this person have on their profile? Is this person in the right country for me to deal with? Does this person, when is the last time they posted on this social platform? Because if you have just those two or three qualifiers, and now it's doing a connection request only to the people that have at least 10 posts and have posted within the last week on the platform, the efficacy or the efficiency or the ability for them to actually reach back out, your engagement's going to boost off the charts. And so that's what we put into our tool, and not another separator, right? Because there's nobody that has anything like that. So
that's also a game changer because like what I was going to get at was just that I often have been on like Instagram and wished that I could do the same thing, grab a list of people and then just go follow them all. And there's just not good tech for that, other than what you've got here. And it seems to me like you're really focused on making it as easy to use as possible. And I think that really helps because I think a lot of people are going to reach out and use a tool like this are a little scared to do the outreach themselves because they don't really know what they're doing. And so your tool is going to help them get through that. But one thing I wanted to ask you about was I also saw this in my research that you've done a lot of talking about your integration with Go High Level. So what makes that integration so crucial for your users?
yeah, it really comes down to Go High Level is an amazing company. They've sprung out of the woodwork and raised a bunch of money and done some pretty cool things. In fact, Sean Clark, the CEO, is a dear friend of ours. We're going to be speaking on Go High Level stage in October this year. Um, one of the things that they don't touch is personal messaging, personal inboxes. Now they do have an integration directly with Meta, which gives them Instagram, and then they have business pages, but they don't have on Facebook, but they don't have personal profiles on Facebook. They don't touch LinkedIn. They don't touch X. They don't touch Twitter or, like Discord or Slack or Pinterest or School or Nextdoor or WhatsApp, which is the ones that we all play with. And so for us in High Level, it's very, very complementary. With us in any big CRM like a Go High Level, we connect into all of them. We have open API and webhooks on the back end, so you can do whatever. We have tag matching and a lot of things. High Level is the one that we see with the most steam right now. And they're also white label friendly, which Flowchat is also white label friendly. So why does that marriage make a really good fit for us? Because if you're already white labeling High Level, you can just add in this amazing messaging white label system and you can sell it together and boost your prices. And it creates better retention for your clients, right? There's some statistic out there that says if one client purchases 2 line items from you or more, they have like an 86% retention rate with you. And so if you have a white label of High Level and then you sell that and you're like, oh, buy this upgrade and get this other white label thing right on top, now they got 2, they're not going to leave, right? And that's really where you can start to create a lot of revenue and windfall for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really smart. And it kind of leads me to my next question, which is, I know you guys have some really ambitious revenue goals. So what are some of the key strategies that you're implementing to reach a 100 million per year milestone?
Yeah. So, gosh, man, you've definitely done your research, Mike. Thank you for asking these questions. I really appreciate you for doing that. So whenever you sell okay, so like tech executives probably know this, but if you don't, there's really 3 main ways to sell a tech, right? One-to-one demos, always the first one. Hand-to-hand combat. Let's get some deals over the line and see what's broken and go fix it and kind of tune it up, right? Secondly, is then going to be webinars, right? So you drive paid media into a webinar, have them on a landing page, and then go through that process. And then third ones will be most people, at least according to Dan Martell in SaaS Academy, he says on the path of giving a free trial and letting somebody get results and then kind of boosting that. So there is that. We've tried the free trial thing with our tech. We've tried all of these methods. One-to-one combat is just a game changer. It's an engine for us. It'll keep running forever. Webinars right now we are testing. I just built our second live webinar, just ran that last week. It's converting around 10% from my first version, is I think pretty good. And then now beyond that, we've got, and I think where most people want to go to is how do you grow quickly? Right. Once you have, minimal viable product, how do you grow quickly? And that comes down to your network is your net worth. Your relationships really matter. And so JV partnerships and email swaps become one of the best and fastest strategies to go extremely quickly. So if you have somebody, say you have an email list of 5,000 or 10,000 people, go find another entrepreneur that's complementary to what you do that has an email list about the same size and say, look, like, why don't we email my list for you and then you email your list for us, and then we'll start to like exchange opportunity because we're complementary, we don't compete. And that's really been, and then there's amazing people that are out there. Shout out to Michelle Madison and the Madison Group as a JV partnership where that's all she does is she goes and finds, she says, what's your list size? Oh, it's this big. What do you do? This. Okay, I'm going to go find 20 other people that might fit that. And then they just, she makes an initial relationship like that. And I think there's a lot of value in that. So I think I would say JV partnerships, one-to-one deals, webinars. If you're growing a tech, those are probably the three fastest ways to grow. And yes, the goal is 100 million. But then beyond that, I think the bigger growth strategy for us is going to be getting those white labelers and helping them to sell to other people, because that creates a revenue stream for them and it secures Flowchat to continue growth.
Yeah, I know other people's audiences is a huge one because, and finding the complementary, say, consultant or business that, can complement what you're doing without being a competitor is really huge, because when you reach out to people about that, that's usually one of their first questions is, do you do anything that I do? Because if you do, I don't really want to do this. But no, that's a great way, because they've got people who are engaged with them, you've got people who are engaged with you, and you just trade messages across platform. It's a great idea. So
we also have we do live trainings twice a week. Chris and myself do live trainings. One of them is just strictly Q&A, and the other one is more so we teach a little bit, like 20-30 minutes, and then do Q&A. And during that 20-30 minutes of teaching time, sometimes what we'll do is we'll actually have a strategic partner come in and present directly to our higher ticket clients. And that's also been a great way, because then they reciprocate and then they have us go in front of their kind of paying clients, especially when it's really complimentary. It works beautifully. We have a guy named Adam Flores. We've been doing that with him for 2 years now. We've brought more than 7 figures to his bottom line, and he's brought about the same back to us. So it's been a really, really good trade. Yeah.
So, people come to me because they're working too many hours. A lot of times they're honestly on the verge of a divorce. It's just they're working so many hours. I even had one person tell me that it's just hopeless, that there's literally no way to not work 100 hours a week in his job. And boy, did we change his mind. How do you balance the demands of work with life? Like, how do you handle work-life balance?
Well, Mike, I never used to. I was like that guy. In fact, there was a time in my career where our first software product was based around network marketing, and it helped the person who wanted to get out of the 9 to 5 and build their own business online. And so we first built the network marketing company, and we built it pretty big. And at a period of time, they said, you guys need a software. It's kind of like the second time it happened. But the first time we said, okay, we'd never built a software at that time. And Russell introduced us to, some builders of platforms. And so we ended up spending $1 million, and we built this first software tech. And so now Sean is CEO of said software company, and CEO of network marketing organization that has 2,500 people in their downline. And it was 100 and I don't know, I was working like 20 hours a day, like pretty close to it. I was living off coffee and Del Taco and water. And I never had time for my wife, and I never had time for any extracurricular, disc golf or playing guitar, doing anything else that I love to do. And I burned out. I was going to a mastermind in Boise to meet with Russell and a bunch of the inner circle folks. And I remember seeing this tree and I thought, shoot, man, I'm done with this. And I almost veered the car off the road and hit the tree, but I had my wife in the car and I was there. I was at that place, right? Like, and I kind of, I didn't luckily, thank goodness. And I just kind of broke down and told my wife, I was like, we need to, cause she was in it with me. And I was like, we need to make a change. Like, this is not okay. And it took Russell and it took shout out to Alex Sharfin. That man saved my life, and my business partner Chris and my wife. Those are the kind of the four people that I surrounded myself. So if you're in that place and you're listening to me right now, surround yourself with those people that truly love you. And then say, how do I get out of this place that I'm in? It's okay to ask for help. And so what Alex Sharfin did, he asked me one question, and that one question changed my perspective on life. He said to me, what do you value most in your life? And I said, my wife. No questions. And he said, prove it to me. Open your calendar. And I was like, oh, shoot. So, yeah, you're laughing because you understand, right? And I opened my
I
calendar
totally
and there wasn't any spots for my wife. And it was all business meetings and all, you know. And I was like, okay, my eyes are wide open and I understand what you're talking about. And this is where I learned like the most successful people that I've ever encountered in my life, the billionaires I've talked to and the 100 millionaires and the 10 millionaires, like they live and die by a calendar. And a lot of people don't do that. Or if they do that, they don't understand the parameters that you must have around a calendar. And so for me, it was I had to make time for things that were important, but I had to bucket on the calendar so that I knew like, okay, this is non-negotiable. So like if you look at my calendar now, every day I have a period of lunch for me and my wife, right? Every morning I have go to the gym with my wife, right? Because the most important, health and my wife. And then every Saturday, non-negotiable date night. And then every third Sunday is like go see my parents and go see her parents. Because like family is a value, right? So it's like that was really how I started to climb out of this because I found myself taking calls till 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. And then I would get off and I'd be like, oh, let's go get Del Taco. And I smash a taco at like 10 o'clock. That's terrible for your metabolism, by the way. And then I would go to bed and wake up at 5 a.m. again and start all over. And it's just, it was an endless cycle and it sucked a ton. But it wasn't until I really started setting parameters in and I put it all visually on a calendar. For me, that's what kind of helped me a lot. Yeah.
It's interesting because I have a little story I can tell that when I early on when I was doing tech consulting, I had this client call me up and he wanted me to set up his networking cabling at his house.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting in front of his computer, you know, an Outlook pop-up comes up and it's for like 3 hours in the future. And it literally said, have sex.
Yes.
And I'm sitting there going, what a weird thing to put in your calendar, right? And then, you know, years go by and I'm now working as a CTO. And then at that moment sort of became real clear to me why that was there. You know, if you don't make time for the important things, you won't make time for them ever. And I want the listeners to hear what Sean said. You know, someone asked him a question, you know, oh, your wife's most important to you? Cool. Show me your calendar.
Yeah. Prove it.
Prove it to me. And there's people out there. I think the message to take away from that is there's people out there who can give you those aha moments. You're not probably not going to get them on your own. I was one of the lucky ones. You know, I was up to like 100 hours a week, didn't see any end in sight, kept wondering, you know, how come I have this big team of people, but I'm doing all this work? And I realized, you know, that's where my whole decentralized A team program comes from is I realized that needed to change. And so I made some changes, but not everybody's going to be able to do that on their own. And so that's why, you know, people like me exist as a business coach to kind of help through that. And I work better with certain types of people than others, but you know, there's someone out there for you. And I encourage people who have kind of relate to hey, your wife's really important to you. Great, prove it to me. Show me your calendar. If you relate to that story, reach out and find somebody because you need that. It's just not going to happen overnight. So I want to transition from more of from these kind of like technical, you know, business oriented questions, and let's just have a little fun with some of
Yes.
you know the time we have left. Um, so if Flowchat were to collaborate with an artist or a musician to create a marketing campaign, who would you pick and why?
Oh man. Well, Taylor Swift, just because of her audience, number one, I think that would be like an easy no brainer. And then it would be based on after that, it would probably, I don't know if I could answer that super well because I would probably want to do a bunch of market research to figure out our exact avatar or client profile, like what music do they listen to most on average, and then I'd find the biggest artist in that space, and that would be the person that I would choose. Like, I'm always a data driven person first, because I understand that that's where you're going to get the biggest bang out of any relationship or money that you put into anything. And so I mean, like, clearly Taylor Swift is amazing, but her audience is mostly younger females, so maybe not the best audience, but you know, they all have parents, right? So there's that. But I would say
They're also super loyal.
that's true.
They might buy a subscription just because she said so, even if they didn't need it. That's the
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
person.
there is that, right? So I guess it'd be hard to kind of answer that. And like Post Malone's another one that comes to mind. He's got a massive audience, and we match the same last name, but we're not related. But yeah, so I don't know. I would just say, yeah, there might be not music that I'm partial to. I mean, like, they're just, I would, yeah, again, I would probably go do some research and figure out like
Sure.
who does our person listen to the most.
Well, I think your team will be interested in the answer to this question. So, if you had to swap roles with anyone at Flowchat for 1 month, who would it be, and what do you think you'd learn from the experience?
Oh man. I would actually want to sit in the shoes of our CTO. I don't know any tech. I wouldn't be very effective at anything that he does. Like, that's fully his lane. But it would be very enlightening to me to learn how he thinks, how he processes, how he acts and works, and see like what's on his plate and then what he's juggling. Because I think that would give me a more decent experience of or understanding of how I can better support him in his role. I've already been in the CEO role. This is my 8th business go around. So I've done the CEO thing a lot. So I'm okay with that position. And I've done every position underneath that other than tech. So I'd say it's the one I don't know. It'd be that one. But just for, if you said a month, yeah,
That's a great reason. Yeah, that's actually a great reason. Because learn something you don't already know is always a fun thing. I mean, I would actually probably, if I had it to do, we have a virtual assistant who runs all of our social media, and I would probably swap places with her. But only because of the creativity that it could teach me.
oh
It's
yeah,
an area I've always struggled with. I mean, I like to play guitar as well as
see
you.
that.
That's kind of my creative outlet.
Have you ever,
I
well, let me ask you this. I mean, like, have you ever mixed your creative outlet with an opportunity to like gain traction?
it's something that we have in the process right now. Maybe I should just announce it. We moved to Las Vegas about 2 years ago, and we're the type of people that we like, my wife and I, we like to help other people with things. And one of the weird side effects when we moved here was because we're, adults, it's hard to make friends, and it's even
Yeah.
harder in Las Vegas. They're
Yep.
very transient type people here. And so we made a concerted effort when we moved here to try to make friends. Well, we love live music. So who do you think we met? Musicians. And so we're about to launch a music show actually in June, called Sin
Congratulations.
City Soundwaves, and we interview local musicians, and eventually we're actually in the process of curating a list of big name bands that either were born in Vegas or live in Vegas. So like the Killers would be, a band that they live here in Vegas, have all their career. And eventually we'll be bringing people like that on, and then hopefully connecting those people with the smaller musicians who might complement one another. So that's one area where we're using some of the creative energy to like go somewhere with it and potentially make, as you said, buckets of money. I mean, that's the goal. That's really the goal, is to get
I
everybody set up for the future.
I lived in Vegas for 20 years. I moved to Colorado a month ago, so I'm sad that we never connected in person,
Oh
because
yeah.
I was there for 20 years, and I will agree with you 100%. It is so difficult to make friends in Las Vegas because people are so transient there, especially as a, kind of an adult. So I'm with you. I 100% agree with you. I love what you just said. I think that's amazing. I would also think about if you have demos or videos that you put out for your stuff, like put your music, I'll lay your music on the background, like just over like tracks, like
Yeah.
just get it infused however you can. Like, that's awesome, man. Congratulations
Yeah, I
on
mean
the show,
that's
by the
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been something I've wanted to do for a while, and finally just pulled the trigger. I mean, we just rented out a studio space. I mean, that was another big surprising struggle here in Las Vegas, was
way.
finding a studio where we could record on a regular basis with like where it looks the same. I don't want to go from one, like listeners, when they watch the show, they see the same background every time. I don't want like, one week it's purple background, next week it's a green one, next, I don't want that. So we
Yep.
found a place that has like what they call creative office space. And
Mm.
literally it's mostly the majority of people that I've seen there so far are small bands that are paying for it for practice space because they can leave their equipment there and it's safe. Versus, in someone's rented garage or some crazy thing like that where someone will break in. But it was crazy trying to find space like that. Just isn't anything, doesn't exist here. So, we're going all in on this and we've spent a little bit of money to get it off the ground. And I mean, it's just worth it. And we're kind of privileged to be in a spot where, we can do that financially. It's very,
Well, that's what you work towards, right? I mean, like
yeah,
everybody, like all the tech executives that are listening right now, it's like, why do you do what you do, right? You do what you do to build a lifestyle that you really want to build. And like, Mike, kudos to you. You've gotten to that place where you now have the disposable cash flow to go do the thing that you're super passionate about, which is
right.
that's why we do business. That's why we build businesses, right?
The whole reason. Yeah. I mean, and I mean, it's obvious, like you've talked about, like it gives you the freedom to, have your date nights on Saturday nights, et cetera. I mean, and that's really, all part of it. You kind of design this. That's what we do is we design our own life, right? And so, we design where we want to go. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you. Why don't you let
Likewise.
our listeners know where they can find you?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about our software or me, you can just go to flowchat.com, flowchat.com, flowchat.com. That's fine. And then Mike's going to drop another link in the show notes if you want to go check out our white label page. That might be interesting. Of course, you can always find me on all of the socials. Just look up Sean Malone on social. So, and you'll see my picture with like a blue or purple behind my head. Just look for the purple head. I'll be there. So, yeah, that's it.
No, that's awesome. And as he says, it'll all be in the notes and in the description on YouTube. So don't feel like you have to rush around, writing it all down or anything like that. Easy stuff. Well, thank you again, Sean, for being here. I truly appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. And again, what you're doing, I think, is so valuable. And if you're listening and you're on the fence about working with Mike, push the button, dive in. Because what I can tell you is if you want to collapse the timelines and the time frames of your own career and your life, and you want to get to the results, find somebody who's already done that, aka Mike, and ask him for the shortcuts because you can do it on your own. Yes, you can, but it'll take you 10, 15 years. If you work with Mike, you can get it done in a year. What's that time worth to you? What's 9, 15 years to your life added on if you can just find someone like him that can already help you get there? Like, do it. That's what I would say.
No,
Thank
I
you, Mike.
appreciate that. It's very true. You need somebody who's been there, done that, so to speak. But thanks again, and everybody, thanks for listening to Gaining the Technology Leadership Edge. New episodes every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Pacific on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, streamed live. So thanks for being here, and hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week for another amazing interview.